Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another one of our B2B webinars. I am really excited. So I am Scott Morris. I am the Director of Business Development for GTS Distribution. And with me today are two very special people, very good friends in my personal life, and very great game makers when it comes to the gaming scene. I have Steve Buonocore, who is the president of Stronghold and a spokesperson for Indie Game Studios. And I have Nick Little, who is the vice president of Indie Game Studios. Now, you may ask yourself, why do we have Stronghold and Indie Boards and Cards here? If you did not know or had not heard, the two companies actually merged last year, just around a little after the Gen Con timeframe, mostly in the effort of world domination, but for now, just being the best board game manufacturer they can be, which is awesome. We do have quite a bit to talk about today. I just want to go through some housekeeping stuff, make sure everybody is aware of kind of how this rolls. If this is your first time on the webinar, welcome and thank you for joining. If you're a veteran, again, thank you for coming back. Essentially what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a couple of different games. We're going to talk about Aeon's End Legacy. We're going to talk about Ganz Schön Clever, which is also known as Too Clever, I believe, in the translation. Is that right? Or is
it translates as That's Pretty Clever, which is the subtitle.
Clever, right.
Yep.
And then we'll also talk about a sequel to that, which is also Too Clever. My German is not the best, so we'll leave it at that. If for those of you attending, if you hover over your video window, there will be a little chat bubble at the bottom. What you can do is you can open that up, and at the bottom of the chat window where you would type in your message, there's a little drop down that says to all panelists. If you want to change that to all panelists and attendees, you can ask any kind of questions you want. As I tell everybody, pardon the pun, but everything is on the table, so feel free to ask us any kind of questions you want, and we'll make sure that Steve or Nick or any of the other additional people we have on the line here, we have Daniel and Kira and several people from the company to be able to help answer any kind of questions you have. That would be great. And as a reminder, for joining the webinar today, you will be eligible to get a free copy of That's So Clever, which Stephen is going to hold up. There you go, Ganz Schön Clever. That's pretty clever. You'll get a free copy of that. This is a great game as a demo game to have in your store because it's super quick and super easy to teach, and it's really easy to pick up and get going with. So you will, just for attending, be able to get a free copy of that from GTS Distribution. In addition, if you purchase or pre-order any of the games we're going to talk about today between now and next Monday, March 25th, 2019, you'll be able to get 52% off MSRP as well. So give you a little bit extra margin, give you a little bit more of a bump, which is a great thing to have in these days and times. So with that, I am going to take my face that was made for radio and shut up, and I am going to kick it over to either Stephen or Nick. I'm not sure who's going to kick it off, but gentlemen, I'll leave it to you to get started on what we're going to talk about today.
Sure,
Nick,
I'll go ahead.
Would you like to go, or do you want me to go?
I'll go first. I got it. Okay,
You got it.
so I'm going to talk about this beast, Aeon's End Legacy. Got a little bit of a glare here. So Aeon's End Legacy is the third kind of big box game that's come out in the Aeon's End line. And Aeon's End, the first game, actually just hit top 100 on the BGG rankings yesterday. So Aeon's End, if you're not familiar with that game, it's a co-op fantasy deck builder. The kind of two big hooks that you get from Aeon's End is that it is, as a deck builder, you don't shuffle your deck. So when you would go to draw a card and you can't, you just flip your discard pile over and it becomes your deck. So it allows for a lot of planning so that you can figure out exactly which cards you're going to draw at which time. So this really appeals to those kind of people that want to long-term plan and strategize and get all the cool combos together instead of it being a random draw of cards. On the other side of that, the turn order is randomized. So it simulates the chaos of battle. Every game feels like a big video game boss fight, and the game, each one of the big boxes comes with at least 4 nemesis, the big bosses that you're going to fight against, and they all attack you in very different ways. And you'll have to come up with a new strategy based on which guy you're playing with and against, and what cards are in the market. In Aeon's End, you play as a unique mage with a unique starter card and a special ability and a different kind of setup. And in Aeon's End Legacy, you start out as an adept, an apprentice mage, and you don't have any sort of special abilities, any unique starter card or anything. You're just like blank slate. And after each game, you get to pick a new ability and add it to your playmat or add it to your starter card. You'll name your mage, and every game you will become more and more powerful, and the bosses will kind of ramp up with you. The one of the biggest selling points for Aeon's End Legacy is that it is the best place to start playing Aeon's End. So what we did is we designed it as an introductory experience for the first couple of games. In the first couple of games, you're actually playing an easier or less complicated version of Aeon's End. And we kind of ease you into the full Aeon's End rules so that by game 3, you're playing like Aeon's End rules, and then we tack on more stuff as the game goes on so that it gets more interesting, more complicated. So it's a great place to start playing Aeon's End. It being a character generator, so at the end you have built a full mage, and you can take that mage and go and play all of your other Aeon's End content. So that's different than any other legacy game that you'll find out there. Also, Aeon's End is the first legacy deck builder, so that approach in design, and I am one of the designers on this game, me and the original Aeon's End designer came up with this. So it's interesting, or as I've shown it to more people who are in a lot of games, they've commented that it's really interesting to see what it means to be the first legacy deck builder, because there's no board in this game, so it's not like you're stickering on new stuff on the board like you would in Pandemic or Seafall or Risk. So that part is interesting, but the strongest selling points for you will be that it is a great introductory experience. It is a legacy co-op game where at the end of the legacy campaign, you're left with replayable content. You can play through all that content and mix it up with all of the other Aeon's End content. So it acts as an introductory experience that you can then sell more Aeon's End products when they come back in. They finish their campaign, they want to reuse their mages against new bosses and with new player cards, you can go back and sell them Aeon's End and War Eternal. And we're continuing to make more content for this. It is also, I mean, it's just a cool legacy game. It has an interesting narrative and progression to it. And Aeon's End, the core mechanisms are there. The core mechanisms that got Aeon's End into the top 100 are there. So it has all of the kind of interesting elements of a legacy game where you see the progression and the narrative and the complexity build up on top of it being a great introductory into this franchise, and also being totally replayable when you're done. And also we're releasing a reset pack for it, so you can go back and play through the campaign and create new mages for it. And that'll be out, I think, in the next week, or maybe it's next month, but it should be out soon. And that's about it. Like I said, the easiest way to kind of sell this game. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I was going to mention also that we were at Dice Tower West just 2 weeks ago. The fact that people come up and saying they love the modularity of the game, meaning like you take Legacy and you bring it into Aeon's End, or with War Eternal, or with any of the other expansions. They're completely interchangeable, and that just makes it something that when you buy into part of it, you're going to want to potentially buy into other parts, which is a great selling point for the retailer.
Yep. So, let me know if anybody has any questions. Go ahead and pop them in the chat, and I'll stay on and be happy to answer if nobody has any questions now. Or
just so everyone knows, Daniel, one of the representatives from Indie Game Studios, actually said March 6th, 2019 was the Legacy Reset Pack. So that should be available in the system as you're ordering the base game as well. I'll jump in and add one thing into that, but just kind of like 2 cents. The number one thing that I hear from retailers when they're looking for games to talk to other people about is around the word unique. And Aeon's End is truthfully unique. I actually hesitate to introduce it to people as a deck building game, because while it is a deck building game, there's kind of a stigma that some people get in their head of this is the way a deck building game works. And Aeon's End works completely opposite of how you would think a normal deck building game would work. And like Nick said, when Nick first taught me the game, we were at BGG a couple of years ago, and he told me, he said, no, don't shuffle, don't do that. I was like, what do you mean don't shuffle? And he said, no, you flip your deck over. And I'm like, well, that seems weird. Like, how is that going to work? And the first thing that went through my head was there can't be that much of a strategic change just to not shuffling to flipping your deck over. And in the matter of 2 turns, like all these combos started going off in my head of, oh my goodness, this is how it works. And it's such a great aha moment when you play it for the first time. So if any retailer is looking for that uniqueness or something that is unique on its own, just the base game of Aeon's and Legacy is great. But then you throw in this legacy component where you're able to kind of, like Nick said, go from being an adept to being this powerful, magic caster and all these different things that are happening in the game. It's a great experience. So that's just my 2 cents on my short amount of time with the game, which has been phenomenal.
Yeah, the biggest comment that I've gotten about how different it feels from deck building, a regular deck builder, is because there are like 4 different things that you can spend your currency on instead of just buying cards. Every turn isn't, I'm just going to buy the best card that I can afford. It's, well, do I want to do this, or do I want to focus my breaches so that I can cast more spells, or do I want to buy charges so I can power up my ability, or do I want to use my cards to get rid of this nemesis card? And you always have all these choices, and the fact that you don't know who's going to come up next in the turn order leads it so that you can't just always have perfect information and know what the perfect choice is. So yeah, that's a good point, Scott, that it isn't. I have found that people that like co-op games like this game, whether they like deck builders or not, and people that like deck builders like it because they understand that element to it. But I've had several people go, I don't like deck builders, or my wife hates deck builders and I bought this game and she loves it, so.
Excellent. We have had, just so everyone knows, we did have a few more attendees join after we just started. Just as a reminder for everyone, if you do have any questions, you can hover over the video and there's a little chat bubble. Go ahead, open that up and choose the 2 all panelists and attendees drop down. And then all of your questions will come through on chat window and we'll be able to get those. We do have a question here. I see a Kickstarter for New Age, but no retailer level. Is that going to be a way that we can get this?
So I'll go ahead and answer the kind of larger Kickstarter question when it comes to Aeons, because it has been on Kickstarter a lot. For the most part, all of the stretch goals and stuff that we add via Kickstarter goes into an expansion that we then release later. When it comes to exclusives for Kickstarter, we do very few promos that actually don't ever go out to retail. And starting with Legacy and now with when the New Age comes out, we're going to have a retailer promo pack that will include part of those promos that came out in Kickstarter, but so that if people come into your store and you order in advance, if you come out, we will give you an additional promo pack that you can give away for free. So people that ordered Legacy in advance already got a lot of those promo packs, and we're doing that again. As far as this specific question, there is no campaign, there's no pledge level, and actually the campaign just ended. But if you scroll down further in the page, you will see, if you have questions about ordering this in retail, send us an email at this email address. So you can order it through us that way if you want to go through that process. You just send us an email and we can answer more specific questions that way than just putting a generic kind of, here, you must order X copies in order to get in on retail. So
awesome. Excellent. All right, it does not look like there's any additional questions that are coming in right now. If anyone does have questions, like I say, feel free to drop them in the chat window. We can always come back to them. So if we want to shift over from Aeon's and Legacy over to something else, feel free, Stephen or Nick, it's all you.
Let me take over, I guess. And we're going to go with, speaking about game that came out last year as Ganz schon clever. My German's better than yours, but not much. Which is actually now going to be rebranded, especially in the second printing, as That's Pretty Clever. This game was nominated for a Kenner Spiel des Jahres, that's the Expert Game of the Year award in Germany, by the designer Wolfgang Warsch. He's on fire. He had The Mine that won last year in the Spiel des Jahres, and he didn't win, but he had that. And then he also had, which is now called The Quacks of Quedlinburg. All of those were nominated within the Spiel des Jahres last year, which is an amazing feat. So this designer's on fire, and I'll talk about him in a second even more. So what is That's Pretty Clever all about? I'm going to remove my pretty face. I'm going to show you the game here and go through it a little bit, if that's okay. So what comes in the game, besides the very short rule book, can you guys see this pretty well, what I'm showing here? Is that okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Great. Okay. Size is very short, very small. It's 8 pages with lots of examples and very small rulebook, which fits in this small form factor box. You get these colorful dice. You get this pad of score sheets, and you get these pens in this insert here, which actually comes into play, the silver platter. This is a roll and write, which is probably, one of the hottest game mechanics out there, the roll and write mechanic. And the way that the game plays is very simple. It's going to be turn-based. There's going to be an active player phase, and there's going to be a passive player phase. In the active player phase, active player rolls the dice, brings them out, going to select the die. For instance, they might select this 4 in yellow, puts it onto their pad. Everything below that number gets put up here on what's called the silver platter, which is going to be used by the other players. And then the active player marks the 4, either writes the 4 down or marks the X onto their pad. In doing so, they're going to end up getting various scoring opportunities at the end of the game, as well as potential bonuses here. Each one of these is a different way of scoring. The yellows obviously be marked in this area, the blues will be marked in this area, the greens, the oranges, and the purples. White is a wild and is always combined with blue. Without going through all of the mechanics, what you're going to see here is that it's a very, very, very simple way of playing this game. You're going to take 3 of these terms. Oops, I grabbed the yellow, which I shouldn't have. Put that back. You're going to re-roll. You're going to pick another die. For instance, I could pick this 4 of orange. I'm going to write the 4 down here. I can't do it upside down. It's a little bit hard. I did it wrong, but you got the idea. I wrote in a 4. I rolled the last 2 dice. I pick, say, the 5 of green. I can mark this, and this comes up. That's a turn that I would have taken as the active player. Every passive player now picks one of these, marks it on their sheet, and they might say take the 3 in purple, and they mark the 3 down over here, which again I can't do upside down, but you get the idea. This is going to go on turn after turn. You're going to be able to get bonuses that you can get extra dice. This is the extra dice bonus, the +1. Rerolls are marked over here, and you might get some of those. And then the game is played over a series of either 4 to 6 turns, depending on the number of players. The backside is simply where you write down the player names and what you've scored in each one of the various colors. On a summation, highest wins. The back of the rule book, you'll notice that, let's see if I got that there, that there's even levels, how well you've done. If you've done over 140 points, not so good, but if you've gotten over 280 points, you've done remarkably well. So people have these huge competitions online for this game on how well they do. So what are some of the reasons, why this game has done so well, with gamers, and they believed in it so much, and they've talked about it, and they keep talking about it? First of all, Wolfgang Warsch is absolutely on fire, as I mentioned. We have a series of games that are going to be coming out with him, and I'm going to show you those games. The next one coming out in about a month or so from now is twice as clever. This says doppelt so clever, twice as clever. We're going to be coming out with a game after that by him as well called Bricks. All of these are roll and write games. So that'll be the 3rd game in the line. Dizzle will be another game in the line, and then there's another one planned for toward the end of the year. All of these games come in at a really great low price point of only $19.95. They are, once you buy into the system of roll and writes, once you get into this feel and making these combos on the sheet where you'll get free bonuses to do other things on your sheet, even with just 1 die selected. People get this great feeling of playing this game. They buy into this system, they're going to want to buy the next game when that comes out. Then they're going to want to buy the next one. So at this very nice low price point, it's an insta-buy for gamers. And we're creating this line for retailers to be able to do that. What else? Fast, very simple demos can be done. I've taught you half the rules already just by going through it like that. So this game demos instantly. You can have it there on your shelves, and quick demos. People get into this game very fast for very quick buy-ins. My favorite thing about this entire line, in fact, is going to be that, since you're going to be able to have them all on the shelves, and over time, people are just going to simply want to continuously pick up that next big game, that or small game as the case may be, that has that same similar feel of rolling, marking, and then interacting with the other players. So that's pretty clever, followed by Twice as Clever, then Bricks, Dizzle, and a game to be named later toward the end of the year.
Yeah, and I have to add, to say that these two games are on fire is kind of an understatement. I am extremely connected on social media when it comes to board games, and I cannot remember a day that has gone by that I have not seen a post about someone playing this game, because it is something that is so easy to take with them. It's something so easy to teach anybody, whether you're a gamer or whether you're not a gamer. It's not like it has, dwarves or dungeons or spaceships or anything that someone has to get connected to thematically. Most casual gamers, if you were to take someone who is not a hobbyist or enthusiast, most everyone has heard of Yahtzee, and they know of, just regular dice and rolling dice, and that's part of gaming. And I've had a lot of people that I've introduced this game to that have said, oh, this is like, if you like Yahtzee, it's like an advanced Yahtzee, and they've never seen a roll and write before. They've never seen anything like this. So it's something new to them. And again, kind of falls back to that unique word for me. The thing that really jumps out to me about these two games, Stephen, and I'm sure you've seen this from retailers and from gamers as well, is that most of the roll and writes that are on the market today really kind of almost keep you on the rails, right? They give you options for what you're going to do with the dice that you have, but they kind of take you down a pathway of a story or a thematic or something that they want you to experience. Whereas with Ganshan, it's really more of your choices driving your strategy to get to a certain number of points. And I know that I've seen a lot of people online where they're like, oh, I can get 300 points. And there's people who are like, no, that's impossible. There's just like no way to get there. And it becomes that like self-challenging mode of I'm going to find a way to get there. So it definitely stands out to me as one of the most unique roll and writes, not just for the name and my bad German, but also for the gameplay and the choices.
Yeah, and this Wolfgang Warsch continues to kill it with these various out of the box, out of the scope designs that are constantly getting recognition. I'll quickly mention we're also coming out with another game by him called Subtext, which is a drawing game, but a very simple one where drawing well is not part of the entire thing. So just mention that we're going to continue to work with him because he is one of the true young geniuses in the hobby.
Yeah, it's a good point. He is definitely one of those designers that if you have fanboys or fangirls in your store that are looking for, the hot name or whatever the hot new thing is, he has definitely had several big hits, which is really good to see. Daniel did just post in the chat, just so everyone knows, Ganshan Clever was released on February 6th. Dopplet So Clever is going to be released on May 1st. And again, as a reminder, if you do order these games between now and next Monday, the 25th, you will get 52% off MSRP. We did actually just last Friday receive a restock of Ganshan Clever, which is great. So aside from having those to be able to get out to everybody for the demo, you'll also be able to stock up for the store for those as well here right after Gamma 2. So,
yeah, I believe Twice as Clever might go to May 15th, just as an FYI, but it'll be definitely a May release.
That's okay. Yeah, no, that's not a problem. As long as it's not like September, right?
No, so, coming very soon.
Yeah,
In fact, that's what we're going to be doing with these. We're going to want to release them, a month or so apart, just to have the hobby, have the gamers pick that game, get that next one, give it a little time. Oh, there's another one out. They'll get the next one. And again, these are like impulse buys, I think, for most gamers at $19.95. They'll come into the shop and say, oh, that's the next one in the line. Sounds great. Hook me up.
Yeah, I had a retailer at Gamma say something that I absolutely loved. He told me that for $19.99 or less, that's kind of bottled water to a gamer, which I thought was a great tagline. So it was really good.
Good one.
Awesome. So, Steve, there's no additional questions that are coming in right now about the Clever line, but I was hoping maybe you could take a few seconds, and don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I know you very well, and I know that you can tap dance like Fred Astaire if you need to. For anyone who may not be aware, right, with the kind of merger or the coming together of Stronghold and Indie Boards and Cards, can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what your goals are as a company moving forward? I know a lot of retailers talk to me about the brand of the company making the games. You're someone who you put yourself out in front of the camera quite a bit. You have your podcast that you do with Ignacy. You do a lot of vocal stuff with the Dice Tower, and you're always involved in the community in a great way. And I know a lot of people know you as Mr. Buonocore, but they may not know exactly kind of what's happening between Indie Boards and Cards and Stronghold. So I don't know if you want to take a few seconds and maybe talk a little bit about the merger and kind of where the company's going.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So yeah, that happened basically right at the Gen Con timeframe where we did merge the companies. And I really, in all truth, it was like a marriage made in heaven. Stronghold Games has basically usually been known for the bigger games and certainly partnership games across the world, bringing games in from Europe from known publishers out in Europe that don't have distribution in North America or around the world after Europe. So we've been known to do that for the most part, and bigger, heavier games. And Indie Boards and Cards have been known to do, for the most part, smaller social games. So the two brands can stand separately like that. In general, without going into business 101, the ability for a small company to hire special people to do special jobs is very hard. But once you get a larger company, once you get more cash, capital, credit, and all that kind of stuff, you can then hire some specialized people. We brought on Kira Peevely very early on. She's our marketing consultant, amazing person. Stronghold couldn't have a marketing person. It was too small. Indie couldn't have one. Indie Boards and Cards couldn't, but Indie Game Studios could. Specialized people to simply just take care of conventions and run brands. So all of these things will help us. Combining the companies will help us to grow. And in a current market, consolidation is a very, very, very good way in a healthy market to grow. You see in like technology sometimes, and I came from a technology background, when companies get gobbled up, sometimes it's a bad thing because the companies they're buying like this one thing that company had and they throw the rest of the company out. This was truly an accretive event. The companies coming together, we've come together, we're additive, we are adding people now, even on top of what we had, because of the fact that we're a larger company. And I think we're going to be a bigger and bigger player as we move forward. I think you're going to be able to see a lot of great things happening with Stronghold and with Indie Boards and Cards.
Awesome. Excellent. And Kira did hop in to say hello there, which is great. It's really nice to see, not just what you guys are doing from a gaming perspective, but what you're doing from a company perspective. I think your comment there about the consolidation in this industry versus consolidation in technology, being someone who also came from technology, is very spot on. So excellent. Right. Cool. It does not look like there's any additional questions. So I think we can wrap it up there unless there's anything else that you want to talk about. I don't know if you have maybe a couple of seconds you want to talk about that game over your left shoulder there. Yeah.
This one is very weighty right here. So this one was, this came up in the banner, I believe, that that you guys posted, but
yes.
We didn't really have time to do a full demo. And this is a big, big, big game. Forum Trade John'em. It's also at a much, much higher price point, so slightly harder game for the friendly local game store to sell. But why don't I give you guys a few minutes to talk about it. This was released at the very end of January this year. It is again, I like to drop names. This is a Stephen Feld game, truly one of the great designers in the industry. He has a long streak of huge games. The artwork, as you can probably see there, is by Michael Menzel, really one of the great illustrators of the game industry. Quite a bit going on in this game. This game is Trajan he's the emperor right now in the Roman Empire, and he has commissioned people to build the greatest monument to him, of course, big ego, the Forum Trade John'em. So you are a governor within the empire. You are not only going to help build the Forum Trade John'em, but you're also going to be building a colonia on the outskirts of Rome. So you've got to both build up your own area, your own governorship, as well as contribute to the building of the Forum Trade John'em. It is a worker placement and resource management game, and it is in the style that has been come to be known by Stephen Feld, a point salad game where you're going to be getting points in many, 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 many different ways. A big, heavy Euro. For Feld fans, this is going to be an amazing, amazing experience on the heavier side of the Feld games, too. So he's been known to do sort of some of the medium weight Euros. Now we're getting into a nice meaty one that he's done. The response to this has been really good. We did a big store splash. Hopefully some of you out there participated this with Envoy. We did a store splash. Just ended, I think, a couple of days ago. So during the month of February, we did this one, and it went very well. About 100 stores across the country had this being demoed a lot. So it's Forum Trade Johnum by Stefan Feld, brought out by Stronghold Games.
You know, you bring up a great point there, Stephen, and we haven't talked about that before, but Stronghold and Indie Boards and Cards does a tremendous job of working with Envoy to have games available and do launch events or in-store events for the games. I don't think, at least maybe the most I can think of is maybe a 2-week period, or maybe a 3-week period, but usually like a 2-week period that'll go by that we don't do something. I know when Envoy gets involved with the stores, we're here to help make sure that the stores have stock for the games and have access to the games immediately. But I know Vincent, the guy that's from Envoy, not Vinny Vincent, that's a Kiss guitarist. That's a different story, but everyone calls him Vinny. Vinny does a great job for you guys and has a lot of events that do really good. And hearing that, that you have over 100 plus stores that got involved with a heavy game, with a meaty Euro game, that's great to hear. So that's probably
I'd love to give a big shout out to Envoy. I think that they're killing it in many ways. They're a great marriage point between getting games in gamers' hands, so publishers to gamers getting into stores, free help for the store. They do it on the store's time. If they only want them there on Wednesday nights after a certain time, they'll do that. They can create more of a community there for the store. And of course, then we bring in the convention aspect as well. They get the gamers playing the games out of conventions. So it really is a great focal point to bring all of the points of hobby gaming together. So if your store does not have a herald, generically they're called heralds. Stronghold Games has branded them as the Knights of the Stronghold, so they'll normally come in red shirts and things like that to demo the games. They're not as pretty as me, but that's okay. So they come in there, they demo the games on the time frame that you want. If you don't have heralds coming to your store, and it's not only for Stronghold, you have Indie Boards and Cards, of course, and another 20 companies or more that Envoy represents, I highly recommend looking into them, checking them out. You can register your store online, and then people will find you. And Vincent Salzillo and Evan L. Wing, the president and executive vice president, they will make sure that they find gamers for your store, people in the local area that will come in and help you out. And especially new stores, because they're gamers too, and they want to really get gamers to be there and at new stores or stores that haven't gotten them in yet. So highly recommend it. I know I'm pitching another company here, Envoy, because we incentivize them, we pay them, but they really work well, I think, for all of the members of the hobby community that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, it's a great overview of it. One thing that I want to add for all the attendees from the retailer stores, it's very easy in today's day and age with all the noise and all the information that's kind of being thrown around through email and video and all the different avenues. It's really easy to kind of forget some things and maybe kind of put some things to the side. Stronghold is one of the best brands that's out there, and merging with Indie Boards and Cards, those two coming together are really kind of building up even bigger. I've talked to a lot of retailers recently last week at Gamma, and one of the big overarching discussions I had was it's easier to sell a brand than it is to sell a game, because there are so many different games that are out there and so many different likes and dislikes from people. And hearing some of the things that we've heard today, I think this is one of the reasons that retailers, if you haven't had a chance to bring in either of these companies' games, it's a great opportunity to do so, is that they're making great games, number one, right? Tremendous designers, tremendous games. You've heard a lot of the names that we've thrown around today. Just in 2 seconds, you explained Stefan Feld, who is easily and inarguably one of the best European designers that's on the planet for heavy Euro games. You guys are supporting retailers. You're supporting in-store demo events. You're supporting opportunities for people to get games and demo the games in store. Those are all great things from a retailer to be able to get support. And it's not just adding another game to the shelf. It's adding a brand that expands. And this doesn't even touch on the fact that you have probably one of the most successful evergreens of the last couple of years in Terraforming Mars, and a franchise really that continues to grow and continues to not only be successful, but bring out new expansions that just continue to grow the base game sales as well, which is tremendous. So it's kind of, in a way, the land of rainbows and unicorns when you look at that Stronghold and Indie Board and Game Studios. So it's really good stuff. So just want to make a point to kind of bring that up and share that with retailers if they aren't familiar with the past, but some of the things as they look forward into the future with everything.
Thank you, Scott. That's very humbling. I appreciate those nice words.
Well, you do a good job, sir, you and your entire team.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, there's no additional questions coming in. So with that, we'll probably go ahead and wrap things up. Just as a reminder for everyone who's in attendance, first, thank you so much. Really do appreciate y'all's time. It's Monday morning and everything's getting crazy getting started for the week. But on top of that, it's the Monday morning after Gamma. So everyone who took the time to travel home and make time to come here, really do appreciate it. Steve, Nick, Daniel, Kira, really do appreciate you guys' time as well, being able to come here, showcase some of the hot and cool things you have coming up. This is by no means, of course, one and done. So if we ever have time to bring Stronghold back in and talk about more games coming up, we will definitely find time to do that. For everyone who is in attendance, just as a reminder, your GTS sales rep will get notification and information about you attending the webinar. We'll make sure to get you a free copy of Gauntlet Clever out as a demo for your store. And in addition, if you purchase or pre-order any of the games that we talked about today between now and next Monday, which is going to be March 25th, 2019 at the time of recording this, you'll get 52% off MSRP as well. So great opportunity to be able to add some great games to your store and also to your demo tables as well. So with that, Steve, Nick, any final words?
Happy gaming.
There you go. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.